Good morning, Sumit. Actually, you are on mute.
Okay, very nice. Thanks for letting me know. I'm sorry. Okay, let's get started, guys. So I welcome you all into this dellboomi session. In the last session, we talked about the business rule shape and the clean shape. Okay, in the business rule shape, it is an advanced shape used for validating the data, right? For defining the business rules, and we can define single business rule in this or multiple business rules.
Multiple business
Multiple
rules.
business rules.
Multiple business rules. And if the first rule fails, will the control go to the second rule?
Yes.
It does go, and it will give you the summary of the complete execution. If all the rules for all the data set which is part of a individual document evaluates to true, then only the control go to which branch?
Accepted branch.
Accepted branch. Otherwise the control goes to rejected branch. If at all you want to know the reason for rejection, right? If at all you want to know the reason of rejection, then there is a property which will help you to find out that. And what is that property?
Business rules result shape. Result.
Okay, so the property is business rules result message, something like that, right? So that you can find from the document property, and that's how you can retrieve your rule which got failed. But it will not populate the error automatically, right? It will just give you the rule which got failed. But if you want to populate the error, then there is a section, right, where we can populate error as well. Okay, and that error will be for each business rule separately, right? What all can be given as an input to business rule shape?
Field and function.
Very nice. We can give field and functions, right? So we have to select a profile and we can select any field out of that. Also, we can give functions. Okay, so we have different types of functions that can be used to give an input to the business rule shape. After that, we talked about the clean shape, right? So this is like it is used for
Prepare a reject the document.
validating the data against the rules defined in schema or in the profile, and it can either reject or repair a document, right? So what are the possible branches it has?
Clean and rejected.
Very nice. We have clean and a rejected branch, right? So especially for field length validations and all, this is used more frequently, and we can generally use it before the map shape, right? Before your data fails in the map shape, you can try to validate if it is a valid data, and if it is not, either you can clean or reject it, right? Even for retrieving the error message for this, there is a property called as something like
Result shape. Cleanse result shape. Message.
yes, there is a document property which will help you to know what went wrong with the specific data set which is going through the cleanse shape, and we have cleanse result message that will help you to retrieve that error details, right? So this is again another important thing, and here the error is automatically populated, right? Did you observe other day? The error is automatically populated, right? If there is a field level issue. So now these are the two important shapes we talked about. Today we'll talk about another important shape called as process route shape. Process route or route shape. Very, very important shape to understand, especially from the interview standpoint. I have not seen personally people using it so extensively, but again, I have seen a lot of people being confused between process call shape and process route shape. Yeah, and a lot of people say process route shape is nothing but process call shape plus route shape. These two getting combined together create a process root shape. Yeah. So this is how people call it as, like I have taken a lot of interviews where people will say process call plus route shape makes process route shape. Okay, this is fine. This is not incorrect, but then there are a lot of other differences between process call and process route. So first we have to summarize what we understand about process call shape, and then we will talk about process route shape, right? So process call shape, when do we use it?
When we want to call
To
one
call
process
sub
from another
process.
process.
Okay, so we will write here when we want to call one process from another process, we use process call shape. Very true. Absolutely correct. How about process route shape? It is also same. When we want to call one process from another process, we use process route shape. Now people might ask me, what is the difference then? Okay, if both are used for the same purpose, there is a significant difference. Let's understand this. So when we use process call shape, right? So did we develop any process so far which use process call shape? We did, right? Isn't it? So if we go here, we go to this SFDC integration, we go to the processes. There was a process. Which one was that?
Employee data something.
Okay. Employee. This is a sub-process. Okay, let me check it out. Okay, here there is no sub-process. We don't have any
It was
sub-process.
not in SFDC, it was in HRMS, I think.
Okay, it was
In
in
the beginning,
HRMS.
yeah.
Okay. So we go to the process. Okay, I don't see a sub process over here. That's fine. We can pick up any process for that matter. Okay. Let me check quickly where that went away.
It's there, na, here down after the mess.
Which one?
Process
Is
call
there?
sheet is there here.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, that's fine. This is for error handling. Actually, I was looking for the one from where we are calling this. India, US, UK. These all things. Okay. Okay, that's fine. So we will take this
It
one
was
only.
shapes explanations to me. You can
Oh.
search for that.
Okay, shape explanation is here.
Here.
Okay, very nice. Yeah, so this was an example we took. So what we'll do is we'll click on arrange just so that everything unused gets away. So if you remember, we created all these branches, we created some sub process for these, but then we disconnected. That's why it is lying like this, right? So we can bring it back if we want, but that's fine. At least one sub process is connected, right? And this sub process, we are doing some kind of manipulation, but are we using any connection so far? No, right? But in real time, it may happen sometimes that you may use some connection. Okay, you may use some database connection or anything for that matter. So now what happens with the process call shape? This is very, very important to understand when you start using it in real time. Now, when you create a package component, and let's say you say next, you give some version, I'm saying packaging an example with which shape? Process call shape. Packaging an example with process call shape, create package component. Okay, now I don't want to deploy it for now. I just packaged it. So where can you see your package components? Under deploy tab. Can you create a package with today's date? 17th May. That's what it is right now in India. So now you go to the actions, right? You want to see packaged component details. So you see, so for every package you create, there is a package component ID. Yes, there is a folder from where this package was created. There is a date, there is a created by, sharing is not allowed, package notes, blah, blah stuff was all there. Again, you go to the action. Now you want to see what did we see just now? Packaged component details, right? Let me click on that one again. Once again, here are the summary, and here you see there is something called as included components. Now, when you go to the included components, so this was our parent process, isn't it? This is our parent process. Now, within this, are we calling any subprocess? Can you see subprocess Australia, subprocess India, subprocess UK, subprocess US? Right? Are these all part of this parent process deployment? Yes or no? It
Yes.
is, right? Now, let's say you go back to subprocess India and you make a change. Will that change get reflected? Will that change get reflected in the parent process if you deploy the child process individually again? Okay, let me repeat my question. So you are deploying the parent process, right? And what is the name of that parent process? Shapes explanation, isn't it? This process is internally referring some subprocesses. Yes or no? Can you see the version of the subprocesses? Revision to subprocess India, subprocess US, subprocess UK. Okay, there is a
Yes.
some subversion also. Now let me ask you this. If let's say in subprocess India, I want to make change. Okay, I'll go back and I'll make some change. Let's do it in parallel. Instead of assuming anything, let's do it. Okay, so I'll make changes in, let's say, subprocess US. Okay, because that is already open. Now here there was this one, and now I realize, I'm just giving an example. Okay, I realize mapping of this last name has to be removed. I save and close and I save my process. Okay. Now what is the version over here? Okay, I think it has increased a lot. So we made some change, right? And what is the latest version? The latest version is
19.
19th, right? Let's go back here. We are talking about which one? Subprocess US, isn't it? Yes, guys, we are looking at which subprocess? Subprocess US. Which version was over here? 18th, right? Now you're bundling, when you're creating a package, it means you're bundling a different set of components together, right? Now, let's say if you deploy that subprocess individually, which version you're deploying? If you deploy the subprocess
19th.
19th, right? Because you always deploy the latest version, right? And that is 19th. And whatever change you made there, will that change get reflected in the deployment which you did with this parent process? No, right? Because the parent process referred which version? Version number 18. So that is why here are a couple of important notes. This is very, very important. Whenever we use process call shape to call a subprocess, we need to just deploy parent process. We just need to deploy parent process and the subprocesses are automatically deployed along with the main process. So right now, if you observed, when I started packaging, which component I packaged? Did I package this India, US, or did I package that process shapes explanation? I packaged this one, right? So if you go back to the build tab once again, you go to this welcome tab. Let us see one more time. Process shapes explanation. I'm creating a package over here and I'm saying this is my second package. This is my second package. Create. So now if you want, you can straight away go for deployment. But before I go to the deployment, I want to see my package. So I want to see what are the different package components I have. So if you see for today's date, can you see two versions, 1.0 and 2.0? Yes or no? So when you go to the 2.0, you created a package for which component? Process, and the name of the process is shapes explanation. But if you go here and you see here, package the component details, and if you see included components, right? Do you see subprocesses being included? Yes or no? So that means whatever statement I wrote over here is absolutely correct. whenever you use process call shape to call a subprocess, we just need to deploy the parent process, and subprocesses are automatically deployed with the main process. Any questions so far? So if you have hundreds of subprocesses being called using a process called shape, how many deployments do you need to do?
Only one.
Only one deployment, and that is a parent process. I have seen a lot of people who are new to BOOMI, so they will start deploying the subprocesses also separately. That is not required. That is not required. Why? When that will be required? Only for the cases when your subprocess itself can act as an individual process, then only you need to deploy subprocess individually. If you want that to be triggered as a part of a main process, in that case you just need to deploy main process. You never need to deploy the subprocess separately. Okay, the exception is whenever exception, what exception? When we need to deploy subprocess individually. Where, okay, I will write like this. Let me make. There is an exception. We need to deploy a subprocess individually only when the subprocess itself can be executed individually, right? If you have a kind of a subprocess that can independently execute on its own, that has an independent existence, then only you will deploy the subprocess individually. Otherwise, it is not required to deploy the subprocess, right? Now, the next question is, whenever we make a change, this is very, very important. Very, very important. When I started my BOOMI journey, I still remember I spent 3 to 4 hours, understanding this. Whenever we make a change in the subprocess, in order to get that change reflected, what do we need to do? So let's say there was a process which was deployed. Okay, it was running fine. Now that process was calling a subprocess. We make some change in that subprocess, right? Now, for making sure that change, whatever we made in the subprocess, gets reflected in the deployed version, what do we need to do?
We need to deploy main process.
Very nice. We need to deploy the main process. So if you are making some change in the subprocess, for example, just now we did some change in the subprocess, isn't it? Okay, let me go to this tab. What change did we do? This is not the one, maybe. Okay, let me close some unnecessary stuff. Okay, this.
We changed in the mapping.
We changed in the map shape, right? There was a process with the name subprocess US, and here we made a change in the mapping. We removed the mapping for which field? We removed the mapping for the last name. Now, if you want this change to be reflected in the deployed version, okay. So a lot of people, what they will try to do, they will try to deploy subprocess individually. Will that help? No, because your parent process is referring a specific version of the subprocess. And which version is parent process referring? Now this is the latest one. It is referring 19th version, which is fine. But the first one, the first package, which version was it referring? Version number 18th, right?
18th.
So the point I'm trying to say is, for making sure that you refer the latest version, you need to deploy the parent process or the main process and not the sub process individually. Okay. So the note is, whenever we make a change in the sub process, in order to get that change reflected, we need to redeploy the main process. Okay. These all are very, very important notes. When you start working in real time, you must know this whenever you are working with the process call shape. This all thing is for process call shape. Okay. I'll remove this heading from here so that you don't get confused. We'll keep it over here. Any questions from anyone? Okay. Now, when we have all these facilities, this is fine. Now, this all is fine. There is one more point which I want to talk about: extensions. Okay. So whenever you are using a subprocess, right? So it can happen that some of the connections are there in the subprocess, some of the connections are there in the main process. Is it possible? Yes. So whenever you are using a subprocess and it is being called by a process called shape, important, very important, all the extensible properties can be managed from the parent process, or you call it as a main process, whatever you feel like itself. Now, what does this mean? So if you're trying to basically have a scenario where you have a main process that calls a sub process and so on and forth. So in that case, whenever you want to use extensions, where do you need to manage all your extensions? In the main process itself. You can manage everything from the main process. So what I'm trying to conclude is, when the code goes to sub process, is helping you to basically break down your problem statement into multiple reusable, processes. But at the end, when it goes for a deployment, it is part of a single package. Yes. And since it is a part of a single package, it is pretty much possible to manage that package from the parent package itself, or sorry, to manage that process from the parent process itself, right? Any questions in any of these points? Anyone who doesn't understand this, please feel free to ask. These all are very, very important points. Okay, let's move on. Why I have summarized all these points. First of all, these are important when you start working, and knowing these points are very, very important when you want to understand the difference between process call and process route, and when you want to take a decision when to use process call and when to use process route, right? Because knowing about shapes is very, very important, but at the same time, you should know it in a manner that you can take a call whether I should use process call or process route. Okay. Now, after seeing all these things, what do you think is one of the biggest drawbacks of process call shape?
If we make change in the sub process, again we have to redeploy all like main process. This is, according to me, this is the drawback.
Okay, very nice. I think this is, so let's think of a scenario where you have 1,000 processes. Okay, it may happen. We may have customers who have 1,000 different processes, and now they all are using, let's say, one error handling process, error handling sub process. Yes, we have 1,000 processes, and these all are using error handling sub process. Now this error handling sub process needs to be modified. So first of all, whenever we use this error handling sub processes or all, we have to be really very, very, uh, confident of what we are doing, because these are commonly used sub processes. So we have to be very cautious while designing and developing this. But let's say there comes a scenario, there are 1,000 processes, and now error handling sub process needs a change, and error handling sub process was being called using process call shape. Now what's going to happen if we want this new change to be reflected in all these 1,000 processes? What do we need to do?
We need to redeploy
Deploy all the
all
1,000
the
processes.
1,000 processes.
We need to redeploy all 1,000 processes, which is a very tedious job, right? It is also risky sometimes, isn't it? Unnecessarily, when even though there is no change in this process, still I need to deploy this process. So that means these are tightly coupled. These are tightly coupled or not? For changes in this sub process to be getting reflected, I need to do a deployment of this. So these are completely dependent on each other, right? So these are tightly coupled, right? Now, if we have such kind of scenarios where we do not want tight coupling, rather we want a loose coupling. We want a loose coupling, then we go for process route shape. Okay. Now, like, as I told you, this people say process call shape plus route shape is process route shape. Okay, this might look good to hear, but actually conceptually this is correct. This is not wrong, but then there is more to it. Okay, so you have to understand whenever you are using process route shape internally refers a component. Process. So I have told you that there are many shapes which internally refers a component. Can you give me one example of any such shape which internally refers a component?
Map.
Map shape.
Map shape, add to cache also, retrieve from cache also, right? Remove from cache also. Which component do these add to cache shape refers? Which component it refers? It refers document cache component, isn't it? If you go here, if you, let's say now we go back to our, this tab, we will just close some unnecessary tabs for now. If let's say I use add to cache, it is asking to refer something. And where are we pointed to? We are pointed to component explorer, right? Similarly, the map shape also. So I kind of drag and drop a map shape. It is asking to refer which component? Map component, isn't it? Similarly, process route. Is it asking to refer something? Yes or no? So if I click, so right now we are into which shape? Process route shape, and we click on plus. What is this? It is also a process route, but is it a component or not? How can we identify?
Revision history.
Revision history.
Revision history. So process route shape, is it referring a process route component? Yes or no? It does refer, yes. The process route shape has a dependency on a process route component, right? So what does it do? What is the use of process route component? So it can route the flow of execution. It can route or route the flow of execution to different subprocesses dynamically. Okay. It can route the flow of execution to different subprocesses. So if you remember the example which we started with, yes, the example which we started with other day, were we using a route shape? Yes or no? Were we using a route shape or not? That
Yes.
if the value is equal to US, then call this subprocess and all that stuff, right? But now in this case, what happens is if you decided with route is equal to US, I have to call this subprocess. Can you change this? Can you change this on the fly? I mean, this logic. For example, for I decide for this equal to US, I have to call another subprocess. Let's say there is one more subprocess, and that subprocess is, let's say, a different one. Okay, maybe a new one, and that subprocess is, let's say, subprocess USA. Okay, instead of US, let's say we have USA. I'm just giving an example. Okay, let's say this is my another subprocess, and I want on the fly, I want to decide. When I say on the fly means when we are on the execution, right? Or when we have done the deployment, after that I decide for value equal to US, I want to call this subprocess USA instead of US, right? Is it possible with this with this process call shape and route shape? It is not, right? We have to come back to the process. We have to change this condition. What we have to do instead of this, I have to come join like this, and then that is possible, right? So what I have to do is I have to come back to my build mode. I have to make my changes, and then I have to deploy and create a new package, right? First I have to create a new package, and that new package will refer a new component. But once the deployment is done, right, I do not have the flexibility to change these conditions dynamically. Can I do that with this route shape and process call shape? I cannot do that, right? Because why can't I do that? Because when this package is created, everything is bundled together. Yeah, everything is bundled together into a single package when I'm making use of route shape and a process call shape. But then when you use a process route shape, right? When you use a process route shape, what happens is there is a main process, there is a process route shape, which internally refers what? Process route component, and then there is a sub process. Now, in this case, what happens, please understand this. This is deployed individually. This is deployed individually. This is deployed individually. And another important note is process route component is also deployed individually. It is also deployed individually. So far, which component was being deployed? Only one component we deployed so far in all the cases. Which one was that?
Process.
We always deployed process component, right? We never deployed any other component, but then you can deploy some other components also. What all components you can deploy? How can you see that? How can you get to know that? You go to the filter and you see component types. So these are all the components which you can deploy individually. Do you see process over here? Yes. Do you see process route over here? Yes or no? So now when people say process route shape is equal to process call shape plus route shape, okay, that is definitely an incorrect answer, or at least an incomplete answer, because process call shape can never be deployed individually, but process route component, because process call is just a shape, but process route is a component also, right? And process route component can be deployed individually. So when this can be deployed individually, we can always manipulate conditions in this part. We can always manipulate conditions in this part and can deploy this individually without touching your main process and the sub processes also. Whereas when we were using the combination of the route shape plus process call shape, we always had to touch back which process?
Main process.
The main process, right? So main process always needs to be redeployed. There is a tight coupling because all the conditions are defined in the main process itself. Whereas when we are working with the process route shape, the condition, where are the conditions defined? The conditions are defined in the process route shape. It is neither defined in the main process nor defined in the sub process. So it is your process route shape, which internally refers process route component, where the conditions are defined, and these three are deployed individually. So tomorrow, if you need to make some changes in the sub process, right? And this sub process is, let's say, referred at 1,000 places. So what should we do? What is required to happen? Only the sub process needs to be deployed individually and the changes will get reflected in all the parent processes. Isn't it? Does that make sense? Yes. The extensions of each process is managed individually. What does that mean? Which means the main process extensions will be managed by the main process and the sub process extensions will be managed by the sub process. Why? Because these are two different packages. Okay, these are two different packages. So when I'll explain you with an example, you will understand everything very clearly. So what we will do is we'll start with a new process. So let me go back to this one, and we have been using this one. So let me create a new component. and I'll start with the process route explanation. This is very, very important. I can guarantee you, you attend anybody's session, nobody will give you such a clear clarity on process route. Okay. A lot of people will skip this topic. So now what happens is, let's say there is a message shape. There is a root. There is a name. Okay, a dummy XML is being created just to make sure that some document gets generated, right? And by now, I think you should realize what is the use of message shape also, right? So we use a process route component. Okay, very nice. So now when I do so, okay, you can add some more shapes also. Let's say we add a try-catch shape. What does try-catch shape do?
Error handling,
And what are the types of errors it can handle?
document errors,
Document
and
error and
all errors.
process error. Document error and process error.
Yes. All right, nice. So I'll just add a stop shape. Now I'm getting some warning, right? And what is that warning all about? That the configuration of the process route shape is pending. So when I go here, so this process route is there, and there is something called as processing group. Processing group is used for EDIs. It is not used for your normal integrations. So now there is a general tab, there is a route parameters tab. There is a general tab and there is a route parameters tab. So this route parameters tab is as good as your, it is as good as your route shape. Okay, so for example, if I hit plus and let's say I want to take a decision on the basis of a profile element, XML profile. Okay, I don't have a profile, so let's say I can create a profile. Yeah, I'll just name it as a sample profile. You can name it whatever you feel like. I'll say I'll create manually. So what is a root element? The name of the root element is root. Within this, I'll add a child element. And what is the name of the child element? Name. Save and close. Hit select name. Hit OK. Okay, that's fine. So if you go here, you selected the route parameter, but did you define the conditions so far? You are just defining a key, right? Route parameter, select parameter type and the values on the basis of which you are going to do routing. But are you doing routing so far? No, right? You are just defining the key. And does it allow you to define multiple keys? Yes or no? It does, right? All right, that's fine. Now this is having another two options: wait for the process to complete and abort if the subprocess fails. Did we have similar options in process call
Process
shape?
call shape, yeah.
Yes, we did have. Nice. We'll go to the process route. Now, right now, we are on a component or on a shape?
Component.
We are onto the component. How do you know that? Here there is a revision history. Process route is a component, right? And here within this process route component also there are two tabs: general tab and the process routing tab. Yes or no? So this is a little confusing. Let's see it once again. There is a process route shape which has how many tabs? General tab and the route parameters tab. In the route parameters, what did we define? We defined the key on the basis of which you want to do the routing. Yes or no? In the general tab, you are referring process route. What you are referring? Process route component. And this process route component again has two different tabs. What are those? General tab and the process routing tab. Okay. So now in the general tab, okay, general tab, there is an important configuration subprocess options. There is an option called as pass through. What does that mean?
So that document from the main process can flow to sub process.
Very nice. Okay. When the document, you want the document to flow from the parent process or the main process to the sub process, then we need to check this flag. If you do not check this flag, the document will not flow from the main process to the sub process. Very nice. This is important property. Then there is something like configure return paths. Okay. So when you will typically configure the return path?
When we want some written documents,
When we want some data from the
sub-process to
sub
flow
process
For the
from.
main process.
to be returned to the main process. So this is not a mandatory thing, but it might be required whenever you want the data from the sub process to be returned back to the calling process or the main process, right? And then there is something called as process routing. Okay, right now, so process routing is the place where you will define, or where you will actually define the routing logic, that this, for this value of this particular parameter, the flow of control should go to this sub process, something like that, right? So far, anywhere we have done the routing, that for example, location is equal to US, go to this sub process, location is equal to UK, go to this sub process. We haven't done that, right? We have just defined a key, and the key is just defined over here, and the key is name, right? Isn't it? Actually, we could give it a better name. Maybe the location would have been a better name. Okay, so if I want to make a change, where can I do that? Let's make it location. Okay, so that it is more easy to understand, because at a later stage, so many people might watch this video also. So let's make it more meaningful. Location. So when I'm doing so, do I need to change my profile? Yes or no?
Yes, yes.
Location, save and close. And here also refer the element once again. Okay, very nice. So you define this. Now, if you observe it again, this process route is a shape which has two sections, general section, route parameter section. I defined a route parameter, which is location now. Internally, it is referring a component. That component again has two tabs, general tab and which tab? Process routing tab. In general tab, there is an important property pass through. This property decides whether the data or the document from the main process will flow to the sub process or not, right? And then I go to the process routing. Here you will do the actual routing. So far, did we define any routing? No, we didn't define. So now you tell me, but there is a branch which is coming out over here. What does this branch mean? This is kind of a default branch which will get executed whenever you do not find any matching routing criteria getting validated to success. Yes. So far, have we defined any routing criteria? We didn't, right? So what I'm trying to say is, when it does not find any validating routing criteria, right? Whenever it does not find any of the conditions evaluating to true, the control will go to the default branch. The control will go to the default branch. So now let's say I just quickly run this test. Okay, this test is just to make you understand the behavior of the process route shape. So do you see the control going to the default branch? Why is it going to the default branch? Because you pass the document to this process route shape where you have defined a parameter on which you want to do the routing, but you never defined any routing logic. So when you do not define the routing logic, the control will by default go to the default branch. And in the default branch, you can see the document. Yes. Any questions so far from anyone? Okay. Very quickly, what we'll do is, before we proceed forward, we'll create a package component. Okay. So I'm saying this is my first package of process route create package component. Okay. I created a package. I created a package of this component or this process. Process, right?
Process.
Process. So we go to the package component tabs. Here, can you see? One package got created. We'll go here. We'll see packaged component details and we'll see included components. So when you see included components, you have a process and you have XML profile. Okay. Do you have anything like process route component?
No.
Do you have process route component getting packaged as a part of this?
No.
No, right? Because process route component needs to be deployed individually. Okay, this is a very, very important note. That is required to be deployed individually, and that's why you don't see over here. But when you were using a process called shape, could you see that as a part of the package when you were deploying the process, right? When you were creating a package for the process, could you see your process called shape as a part of the package? Yes, we
Yes.
could see it, right? But process route is a self, or it is kind of individually deployed component. So you do not see that getting, kind of, you don't see that being a part of the package which is created for the process. Okay, so I think that difference is very, very clear. So this needs to be required. This is required to be deployed individually. Now let's say what I want to do is I want to go to the process routing, and here I have to define a key. So now this key is very, very important. This is, if you read this, you will understand very clearly. So when you define a key, there is a label. So what is a label? Optional custom label for this key. So is it really required? It's not. But then you need a routing key or route key. So the key name must be unique within this process route component. Okay. So here I'm giving the key as location. Yes. Key name is location. And this is the key. This is the key where you will get that value, which is coming from that profile element. And I'm saying if the location, oh, sorry, I'm so sorry. This is wrong. Key is already defined and route key means the different values. Okay. So for example, here I can say location. For US location, I want to route to a sub process. Do we have any sub process for this already defined?
Yes.
Right. So I can reuse it, right? Instead of deploying it, instead of creating one more time. Yes. So what I'm saying is there is a label which is kind of optional for that key which you have already given. Then you are giving a parameter value for location is equal to US. If you want, you can read the key that you specify should corresponding to a route parameter. The key that you specify should correspond to a route parameter. So my route parameter was location, right? For location is equal to US, I'm calling a subprocess. I will save. So now for subprocess US, do we have a something called as returned? We can return something from here, right? Isn't it? So I'll just save and close. And I'll just say save and close. Okay. Now here it is saying no return paths are defined. Where are the return paths defined? Return paths are defined in the general tab. Yes or no? So what I'm trying to say is whenever you want some data to be returned back from the sub process to the main process, where do you need to define your return paths?
In general tab.
In the general tab, right? Did we define any return path so far? No, right?
Oh.
So even though your sub process has a tendency to return something, but that will not get returned back until you define the return path over here. So let's define one more. This is very, very important, guys. Please understand it carefully. UK. Now, can we route to a different process? Yes, we can. Where is that sub process line?
SFDC will be mentioned.
Yes. So we have UK and we have a sub process for UK. Save. So for subprocess UK, do we have any return path? We do not have anything. What do we have? End return. That's fine. Save and close. So now what I want to do is, okay, what I want to do is I want to go over here and I want to say location is equal to US first of all, and I want to run it. Now the two subprocesses which are being kind of combined together with this process route shape, which is internally referring a process route component, are ideally individual processes. Okay. So now if you see here, this got errored out. Okay, this got errored out using blah, 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 using dynamic value. This is fine. So if you want to see the logs, okay, why it got errored out? You know why it got errored out? I don't see the error here, but I know why it got errored out. And the reason why we could not see the error, because we added a try catch shape, right? That is handling the error. So if I remove a try catch shape, can we get the error details in the try catch? So for example, we have a try catch like this,
Yes.
and we want to get the error details. So if I want to
Yes.
log it, can I use a notify shape?
Notify shape.
And how can I get the error details?
Document property
Document.
and metadata.
Yes, we have a document property, and that is a which one? See, they changed this, right?
Yeah. This got changed. Yeah.
Yeah. So you will see some these kind of changes very frequently happening, you know, every 15 days.
But it's very confusing now.
I think they have made it easy for people, but yeah, you know, it is always little confusing initially, but I think you will find it little easy as you move on. I mean, there are a lot of navigations in BOOMI, so that it takes some time. When we have a lot of navigations, it always takes some time for us to absorb that. Okay, I'll come straight to the notify shape. What it is saying? Unable to create JSON file from the document may not be well formed. What does that mean? That means your subprocess is expecting which kind of document? JSON document. But what kind of document are you passing?
XML.
XML. So there is an error, which is fine, right? This is an expected error, right? There is a problem. Now I uncheck this flag. Okay, I uncheck this flag that I'm not passing any data. Okay, this again resulted into an error. Now I want to see the error details. This is a very commonly used message. So again, you see call ended in this, unable to create JSON file from the data. The document may not be well formed and all that. So now one thing I wanted to highlight is when you're unchecking this flag, right? And if you have the subprocesses being called, right now 2 subprocesses are being called, right? If you go to US, if you're using data pass through, okay, if you're using, so let's say, let's make it simple for now. Let's keep it really simple for now. I remove all these mappings because we are trying to understand the concept. So let's keep it simple for now. And here we will keep the location as US. All right. We'll copy this, save and close. We'll go to the next one. We'll make it identical, paste. And here, which one I will use? Return documents. Okay. And let's say instead of US, I make UK. Understand this, guys. The concept is very important to understand. Save and close. So we have 2 subprocesses being called. I removed the complexity from the subprocesses so that you can focus on the concept. Right here we can accept the document. We have a message shape where we are writing the message as US. We are returning some stuff, same stuff we are doing over here, exactly same. And now what I'm trying to tell you is in this process route component, right? We are into a component or a shape right now? Component, right? Let's say you don't check this flag, pass through. Your subprocess is expecting the data or it is not expecting the data. That is decided on the fact that what has the configuration of the start shape in the subprocess. What is the start shape saying in the subprocess?
Data passed through.
What does that mean?
Data
is
will come
required.
from, yeah.
So you are saying to the subprocess start shape that the data will come from the main process, but in the process route component, your configuration says that the data should not pass through. So it got executed. It went to the US one. And I think they have changed the behavior, maybe. So if you'll see here, an empty document comes in and it runs. I think they have recently changed the behavior is what I feel. Otherwise, what used to happen is if you have chosen the data pass through in the child process, okay? If you have chosen the data pass through in the child process, and if you do not check this flag, right? If you do not check this flag, which I was talking about, it used to throw an error. Anyhow, that's fine. So you determines whether the documents are passed through a subprocess for further processing or not, right? So it is definitely keeping a control on the behavior, whether the data from the parent process can go to the subprocess or not. But earlier what used to happen is, even if you are selecting this as data pass through, then it was mandatory. If you see my previous videos, I might have shown this. It was mandatory to select this as also pass through. Okay, never mind. Now the next thing, which is the last thing, which is very important, is about the return path. So let's say I define some return path true, one more return path false. Okay, now as many return paths I will define, okay, that many branches will come out of my process route shape. Yes or no? I defined some return paths, so that many branches comes out of my process route shape, right? Which is internally referring a process route component. All right. Now I go back over here. I go to the process routing. I go to the US. Can you see something, some new option is coming, return path mapping. You are getting return path mapping. So it means you can map the return documents which comes back from the subprocess to the parent process using this. So if you see here, there is only one return document. And what is that? You gave the name as use, right, in US. And for this one, you don't have anything, which means whenever the document will be returned by the subprocess US, the control will go to the which branch of the process route shape? True branch. Are you understanding this? And for this branch, false branch, you are not doing any mapping. So it means the control will never go to the false branch. If you come to the UK one, there you just added a return document shape without any name, right? So now it's up to you. Let's say I map it to the false. Will you ever see here? Nothing, right? So the point I'm trying to say is you can define the return paths, whatever you want over here. And then those return paths can be mapped from the document which are coming from the return paths of the individual processes, right? On the right hand side, we have the return paths of the individual processes. And on the left hand side, we have return paths of the process route component. And you can do mapping that which return path of the subprocess should get mapped to the which return path of the process route component. So now if I save and close, what do you think? For this data, where should the control go? I'll show the configurations again. Process route component, process routing, For US location, for this one, I'm mapping to true. For this location, there is nothing mapped. Actually, for false, the control will never go to the false is what you can say whenever we are executing for US location, because here I don't have any mapping. Similarly, for UK location, I am saying whenever the data is written, the mapping has to happen to the false branch. Okay. Or else, actually to make it more meaningful, what should I have done? Here, I should have made it as US and this one as UK. Understand this. US, UK, I mean, that way you will understand very, very easily. You can guess the answer also. Let us check it over here. US is getting mapped to this. UK is getting mapped to this, right? So you can decide based on your business requirement. Now, when I run with, let's say location is equal to US, what do you think where the control will go?
No.
It will come to which branch? It should come to this branch, right? Yes. And what will come over here?
Employee personal details.
It will return the message shape data which you configured in the subprocess, right?
Yes. Okay.
Just you added US, isn't it?
Yeah, change that process.
Yes, I removed those maps and all, if you remember, right?
Okay.
Now, okay. Now let me ask you this. If
So
I make
here,
Mhm.
okay. No, you can go ahead. I'll ask you.
Okay, when location is equal to IND, what do you think where will the control go?
Default.
Default.
Let's check it out. It is going to default. Why? Because for location is equal to IND, there is no configuration in our process route component. Now let me ask you this. Okay. Actually, when I make US UK, you can easily guess. Now let me make it as a this one as a false, this one as a true. Okay. I will show you the configurations. For US, this is like this. For UK, it is like this. Yeah. Now you tell me for location is equal to UK, where the control will go. So we are giving location as UK, control will come here. It will go inside this. Inside this, there is a process routing. Yes, there is a value for UK. For UK, control will go to the subprocess. In subprocess, it will execute and it will create a document UK. This return documents branch will get executed. Control will come back here. This is getting mapped to true. So the control will come to which branch?
True.
True branch. You should know how the flow of execution is moving from one part to another. It's coming to true, right? So how it's working? It comes over here. You will see shape source data. After that, internally, it is going into the process route component configuration. For location is equal to UK, which subprocess is getting called? UAK subprocess, right? You created some document out over here, right? It is a simple empty document with the location as UK. Now there is a return path configured or not? Yes, the return path is configured. And what does that return path says for UK? The return path says that the control should go to which branch? True branch. So that's why you see the control going to the true branch. Any questions in this?
Sumit, I have one question. When we use process route shape, then for that sub processes, we need to use return document shape, right?
When you want the data to be returned from the child process,
sub
yes.
process, yeah.
Yes, we have to use written document shape.
But if we are using process route shape, and in some process there is no written document shape, so then what will happen?
That's fine. So let's say we have this true and false. Okay, so there is US, UK. A good question. So we go to US and let's say here we don't have anything. Okay, so in that case, let's see the behaviors. We go to the stop ship. So we do not have any return path, right? So we do not have any return path. Do we want the data to come back over here?
No.
We don't want, it means we don't want the data to come back to the, or the control to come to the parent process. I'll explain again. I'll go to the process routing, US. Okay. Which one did we make a change in? UK, sorry, right? In from UK one, I removed.
US will change.
Okay. I think it didn't get refreshed. Hold on. Yes, the US one was the one where I made the change. Now, one thing, it is not necessary that whatever data is returned from the child process, you want that back in the parent process, first thing. And other cases that it might happen that your child process never, or your sub process never returns anything. For example, in this case, will it return anything? No, right?
No.
So it will not return anything. You come back here. So still you see used. Why you are seeing used? Because if you remember, I told you other day, if you see any return document shape line, it will show you that one. Okay, even though you're not using that. So let me say save and close. Now you come back to the process routing US. Do you see anything over here? No, right? Can you write unmapped? Yes. So for false, anything unmapped, true, unmapped. Now, what do you think will be the flow of execution?
It should
It
go
will,
to default.
it will not go to the default, because default will only come into the picture when you do not find any matching location. Isn't it? See that, I think she asked a very good question so that it clarifies. This default is for the cases where you do not find a matching location. But do we have a matching location or not?
Yes, we do have.
In that case, I think it should not go to any of these branches. It should just stop at the process route. Yes. Because this default branch is not a return path one. It is for the scenario wherein you do not have a matching location. But in this case, do we have a matching location? Yes. The subprocess gets called. Can you see the subprocess gets called? Yes, it does. But the subprocess, I don't know. We gave the location as which one? UK, right? And why it is not even coming for UK? Because even for UK, I removed the mappings actually. Did I remove the mappings?
Yes.
Yes. So if you will not map anything, anything will not come back. Let us run it one more time for location as US. So the point I'm trying to say is whatever is returned by the subprocess, you always can control whether you want that back in the parent or not. And in case it is not returning anything, that is fine. It will be just like this. It will not go to any of these and it will just execute that subprocess. That's all. The way it is. But do not get confused that the default will get executed. Default will get executed when it does not find a matching criteria. So for example, if I give location as, let's say, Australia, then which branch will get executed?
Now default will execute.
Now default will get executed. Okay. Why it stopped over here only? What is this? Let me run it once again. Yes, now can you see default getting executed? Yes. So that's pretty much about this. If you go back here, now you have to understand this parent process is separate. When you go to the process route component, do you see an option to create a package out of this? Let me cancel. Let me show you again. For this process route component, do you have an option to create a package? Yes. So I'll create a package. Let's say now I'll not deploy it. I created a package. So this is, I'll go to the package components. So this is a new package, but which is a component type? Process route. So far, what was the component type?
Okay.
Process. I'll go here and I'll say packaged component details, included components. So it is an individual component in itself. Has it included any parent process or sub process? No, right? It is individual component. That means all three components are required to be deployed individually, right? The main process, the process route component,
And sub-process.
and the sub process, right? And when those will be deployed individually, that means extensions are also required to be managed individually. Yes or no? I'll summarize it once again tomorrow because it's not so easy to absorb everything. I mean, you please go through the recording, check it once. I'll just repeat everything one more time in a summarized way so that we are good. And then we'll take it forward from here. All right.